Today we are just doing a little YouTube video exclusive. These will be live during the season, breaking down the games, talking about previews, all of that jazz. But we're still in off-season content.
Yes.
And one of the things that I feel like has hit my desk in the last few weeks as I prepare for these teams is the coaches, man. The new coaches have swarmed the league. And I want to put that into perspective. If I count through these hires, and we're not including Pete Golding, by the way. We could have thrown in Ole Miss. We didn't, because Ole Miss is coached in the college football playoff. I'm not saying we know what Pete Golding is, but there is a
Yes.
level of
The
let's
mystery's
shove
not
him,
quite there.
let's push him to the side for now. We'll talk about Ole Miss when we do. I count eight, either like James Franklin included, like fired coach, but eight coaches who went like either laterally from head coach in the Power Four to another coach in the Power Four, or Power Four coordinator to Power Four head coach. I count eight of them. I count James Franklin. I count Tosh Lapoy. I count Colin Klein. I count Morgan Scalley. I count Kyle Whittingham, Matt Campbell, Lane Kiffin, and Will Stein. And that doesn't also that also includes, we're going to talk about some G6 teams. We're going to talk about the James
Yes.
Madison head coach. They made the playoff. We're going to talk about the Tulane head coach. They made the playoff. Memphis and USF were in the mix. North Texas was in the mix. All those jobs came open. At this time last year, Ben, Jake Dicker did a great job at Wake Forest, by the way. And Rich Rod is at West Virginia. But the biggest thing we could talk about in head coaching news last year was Bill frickin' Belichick. And he won
Yep.
4 football games. And I think we all looked at each other and said, this could be a disaster right away. I I have some high hopes for some of these guys and these programs, frankly. And so let's get right into it.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the main character of the sport last year outside of Indiana. That would be LSU and Lane Kiffin. LSU and Lane Kiffin. And here's kind of how this is going to work. Like, kind of just preset what we're looking at with Lane. We're kind of looking at with the roster, what we're looking at with the program as a whole. And then we can get into the Lane tenure itself. What should we expect? What do LSU fans expect? Do we have any expectations for year one? Some of these, personally, I don't. Some of them, LSU, I do.
Yes.
So I think it's fun to talk about. I could mention a schedule as well here too. But for the most part, LSU fires Brian Kelly right at Halloween, 7 games into it after an embarrassment against Texas A&M. They then try and go through this awkward buyout process where I don't think they ever tried to fire him for cause, but they tried to like get some of the buyout money back. They ended up fully agreeing to it. It was very quickly that they were in the Lane Kiffin business, and so it became this, kind of tug of war between them, him staying at Ole Miss, and Florida. In the end, he goes to LSU, who has the most resources, and very quickly they backed it up. Ben, I can
Yes.
confirm this. Their roster's over $40 million this year. They
So
went
much money.
into the portal, and they just, hey, where are the big fish at? Hey, Jordan Seaton from Colorado, come on down. Hey, Sam Levitt, remember what you were 2 years ago at Arizona State? Come on down. And they went big fishing. And now here we are with Lane Kiffin. They're going to host, I think it's confirmed, they're going to host game day week 1 against Clemson. So we have that to talk about. But Ben, do you have any LSU thoughts going into this upcoming season?
No, I mean you touched on the big thing, right? Like immediately he went in there and he's like, I just want to build a powerhouse. I'm going to take advantage of what college football is now when it comes to NIL, being able to kind of convince these players, maybe legally or illegally, to enter the portal so we can pay you and just spend the most amount of money as possible. And I mean, coming off of the back of what you just did with Ole Miss, when you just made the playoffs, given you didn't coach the playoffs, but you just made the playoffs with them, and now you're going to a school with more resources that is obviously more widely known, and you're spending just again $40+ million this year. Without a doubt, your expectation year one from the start of your tenure at LSU has to be we have to compete for a national championship right now. And like anything less than making the playoffs is just considered like a gross disaster for them, I feel like, because you did go out and spend all of this money plus everything else that again that led up to him even coming to LSU in the first place. It's really just a championship or bust for them. And this can kind of start out his tenure like on the hot seat immediately if you don't make the playoffs year one in a very, very hard and difficult conference. I think they could do it, and I would be really shocked if they don't do it. But again, like that's just a very tough place to be as a head coach entering a program, having the expectation from day one being compete for a national championship.
No, absolutely. And you go through it, man, and you talk about some of these players that they acquired through the portal. Like Ty Benefield at Boise State. Not many people know about him. He's gonna be awesome. Like he is one of the dudes at safety, and he's going to be this year. He's been one of like very quickly on campus has been like one of the guys on defense. The biggest thing that I come back to for them this season is just like how do they run the ball? How do they figure that out? But no, your expectations are spot on. I mean, it's championship or bust the minute you walk in the door, right? And it's
Yeah.
even laid out a little bit more on a silver platter because you have so much spending power, and you have this kind of like how do I say it? Like everybody is rolling out the carpet. Like it's including like the governor getting involved in the coaching hire process. Like there is this level of they think Lane's going to be the savior. Lane's
Yeah.
never won anything, so
Nothing.
I'm really fascinated by LSU. Bringing up their schedule just for a second. So again, their schedule this year. Um, we get Clemson to open the season, Louisiana Tech, Cupcake. You go to Ole Miss, deep breaths, and then you come out of it. You face A&M at home, McNeese at Kentucky, home Mississippi State at Auburn. So that I think that's a beautiful stretch of games for them.
Yes.
And then you get a bye, and then you go into Bama, Texas, home, and then Tennessee and Arkansas on the road to close it out. The reason I mentioned the schedule and the reason I mentioned the expectations right away, you're not going to get many seasons in which you get Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Arkansas on the schedule in the same year.
Yes.
And you could even throw in Auburn here if you want. I think because of the new coach, but they're so talented. Like it's
Yeah.
Byron Brown and Golesh, I think are just going to score. So
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to put any floor on them, but this is a schedule you got to catch in, and it's like 10-2, right? And so I think 10-2 probably gets them in. This is where it like gets hard before the season, where if we're putting 10-2 labels on them, do they get in? Do they not? But no, it's again, Clemson is going to be like Clemson's a game that they should walk all over. Like that should feel
Yes.
like a real homecoming. But no, I mean it's national championship, and if you want me to be blunt, it's national championship in the next 3 years. Like
Yes.
it's that's where this feels, and that's where this is going, and that's where it's going to end up, right? And so that's the LSU expectations. Let's go on down, keep rolling. Let's go to Florida. We go to Florida now. Jon Sumrall, hired from Tulane. Jon Sumrall has been in the news for head coaching in the last, what, 2 years? I know he was the guy that the administration department wanted at North Carolina last year. They opted to go with the splash. I think it was kind of a like a board of trustees, board of directors kind of move, and they went with Bill Belichick. I think they might regret that one. And then Auburn was always in the mix, and Kentucky, his alma mater, was always in the mix. And both of those coaching hires go, and open up. I know Ole Miss cared about making a move on him, but in the end, he goes to Florida. He re-recruits the roster really, really well. I thought he would have had to lose one of the two in Jaden Baugh or Dallas Wilson. Both of them came back. They lose DJ Lagway. They bring in Aaron Philo and Buster Faulkner on the offensive side. This is one of the guys that I think expectations rise once you see who the hire is. And there's probably a level of, with Sunbelt Billy, there's a little a little uneasiness, but I think Sumrall won everybody away with his media day. Personally, I think the phone, the cell phone, just how intense he is. There is a little Spurrier coded in there, and I think that's really going to work well for the Swamp. My expectations for this team overall, I think it's getting back into the playoff hunt consistently. And I don't think I'm going to say too many teams. There's going to be one other team that I'm similar to LSU, where it's national championship. That's what we want to achieve year in and year out.
Yeah.
But Florida is one of those teams that it's been a little bit they never made the 14 playoff. If I'm not mistaken, they of course haven't made the 12-team playoff of its 2 years. So I just want that to be. Can you be a consistent back to that 8, 9, 10 win, when we get things right, 11 wins and we're beating Georgia, right? I think you obviously have the recruiting ability in the state, and you look at the talent they already have on the roster. But I think Jon Sumrall is someone I have major respect for and major optimism for. What are your thoughts on Sumrall at Florida?
Well, first off, too, I would not at all be surprised if in 3 years, if in 5 years, 10 years from now, we look back on this and we say, yeah, Sumrall was the much better hire over Lane Kiffin. And I don't want to say I'm willing to bet on it, but I think there's a likely chance that
if you were to put a percentage on it, what would be your percentage? 60-40?
Yeah, I was gonna say 60-40. 60-40 is where I'm at. I just really like Jon Sumrall and what he has been able to do, given he's only been head coaching for 4 years, and both of those at lower level programs. But at both programs that he came from, doing Troy in 22 and 23, he absolutely killed at Troy, going 12-2 and 11-2. And then obviously this past year at Tulane, I mean, you just made the playoffs, right? So if you're Florida, you have to be thinking to yourself, well, you just made the playoffs at Tulane. The expectation has to be, I don't want to say has to be, but the expectation is probably set at can we make the playoffs, every so often or at least consistently? Because again, you were just able to do it at Tulane. Now, what can you do at this very big, well-known program with all of these resources? Again, you're a guy that's kind of known for revitalizing and kind of fixing these programs. Can we get, and this is lofty, but can we revitalize this program to the point that where it was in the Tebow days? And that's saying a lot, when Urban Meyer was the coach, and not that I think that's actually what the expectation is, but I wouldn't be shocked if that's where we end up here. But again, I'm right there with you in terms of what I think is going to happen, and what their hopes is. Can we stay competitive? Can we make the playoffs 3 out of 5 years, things like that? It'll be interesting because Dan Mullins in his first 2 years, we were really able to talk ourselves into that. His first 2 years, he had 11 wins in each of them. And you're okay, this is our guy. This is going to be great. And then he just plummeted off a cliff. So can we start, and maybe it doesn't have to be as hot as what Dan Mullen was, but can we get close to that? But then more importantly, can we stay consistent with that? Can we win, again, 9, 10, 11 wins every year and just kind of revitalize what this program once was considered again in those Tebow days. And that's kind of where I think the expectation for Jon Sumrall in Florida is.
Yeah. Their schedule this year, Florida Atlantic Campbell at Auburn. So their first game in SEC play will be against another, new coach we'll
First
talk about
time.
here in a minute. Home Ole Miss early enough in the season, so the fan base is still going to be. I know all about it. And then they go to Missouri, home South Carolina, at Texas, by then the neutral against Georgia. It's in Atlanta this year, and then it's in Tampa next year because Jacksonville is being renovated. We could have gotten a home and home Georgia and Florida, but no, they need to be played in NFL stadiums.
Yeah.
And then they get Oklahoma, at Kentucky, home Vanderbilt, at Florida State. So I think they finish out pretty well with that 3-game finish. Who knows what Jared Curtis is? Who knows if Mike Norvell is coaching that football game? But no, I think this is a team in year one. I'm looking at, again, let's not set the bar so high that I did with Florida last year,
Yes.
where I was like, yeah, they're gonna make the playoffs, and I drank the Kool-Aid very late. It's 6, 7, 8 wins. Can we play in a bowl game, and can we play against another power conference team and beat them in a bowl game? I think I'm starting as low
For
on
year
the spectrum.
one, yes.
Yes, and I think that's what I want to see them kind of achieve this year, and so that will be my number one. Any more Summerall thoughts before we move on?
No, I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. I think we both expressed how high we are on the higher, and that's a part of this. That's a part
Absolutely.
of what we're talking about. And speaking of guys I'm high on, let's go to Kentucky. They get Will Stein.
Not the place I
from
thought you were
Oregon.
going to.
They get Will Stein, the offensive coordinator from Oregon. He called plays for multiple seasons at Oregon, took over the job from Kenny Dillingham when he left for Scottsdale, and now Kentucky is making the decision to get him. He took over media days just as well as Summerall did. Why is Kentucky going to succeed? Because of me. That's what he said. And so that just excites me. That brings some juice to the program that I think is majorly needed after some back-to-back 4-win seasons and just feeling, just on this downslope. And you think about the Mark Stoops tenure at Kentucky. He was there for 13 years, 82 wins, 80 losses, made multiple, second tier, the B tier bowl games against, Iowa and Illinois, I think there. And multiple 10-win seasons at Kentucky. But I really think if you're swinging for the fences on a guy like Will Stein, who is coming from that landing tree, I think you're really shooting for something special. And so I don't want to get so ahead of my skis where I'm I think the playoffs year in year out are on the table. I don't think that is. But at the same time, Mark Stoops finished 80-80, pretty much, 500 over 13 years. If he does that over the course of 6 seasons, I think that's a failure. So I'm in the middle here, where I don't want to sit here and jump out of my skis and say I want to be the highest man and say I think he's going to make them a playoff contender. They're going to be the next Indiana in a big program, in a big conference. But I also don't want to sit here and say that I don't want to be content with just being hey, let's win 3 SEC games. Let's go 3-6. Let's win our non-con games, guys, and let's make a bowl, right? That's just not shooting for the star. That's not shooting high enough, where I think Kentucky normally is shooting. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah. We definitely see it maybe a little bit differently. As you touched on, he had good success at his time at Oregon. Both of his years there calling plays, he finished with top 25 offenses. Last year, he finished with the 11th best total offense. So he put together some very good offenses. And again, anyone coming from the Dan Lanning tree or Kirby Smart tree, I guess, if we're going to work our way back up. Like you have some expectation for it, right? Yeah. But you do have some expectation there. I don't think I'm quite where you are, right? For me, it's like, can we finish above 500? You touch on that 500 mark with Stoops there. Like, can we be slightly better than that? Can we be above 500? Mm-hmm. Can we hang in there, and every so often can we upset a team that we shouldn't, or that we shouldn't win against? And then, for the love of everything that is holy, beat Louisville. This is like one of the most like underrated like in-state stuff rivalries that doesn't get touched on enough. But like, these guys hate each other. You like beat Louisville, go above 500, and see if we can get a couple upsets, 1 or 2 upsets every season. And I think if you can do that, like, you're going to be just fine. As you touched on, Stoops was there for a very, very long time. And again, that exact 500 mark is a little difficult because he definitely had seasons where he like finished way above that, and then obviously it's evened out because he's had some pretty bad seasons there. But again, like you were there for a very long time, and you were just mediocre. So can we be just like slightly above average and be fine? And I think if we can do that, we can just be pretty happy and say like, we're an all right football school. But let's still focus on basketball, and because that's just where it's always going to be, with Kentucky, obviously. But just stay above average, stay competitive. I think that's really all you can ask for Will Stein in Kentucky.
Yeah, and that's another piece of this is I feel like some of these schools are figuring out, and maybe they learn from a team winning a basketball national championship this past year and winning a football national championship just a few years. You can be good at both. Like Michigan is telling us this, and Indiana went out of their way to give Cignetti the resources to what he wanted to fund. You can be good at both in these conferences, in the Big Ten and in the SEC. And so I agree with you. It's always going to be football or basketball first and foremost, but if you win games in football and you show some development and he gets exciting quarterbacks, that's the biggest thing. I think if we can show that ability to, like, I don't even know if, like, developing Minchie is the right guy, but, like, right away it was like, oh, Levitt with Kenny Dillingham, like, that's exciting. And they were immediately rocket shipped. Like, remember Arizona State, when they got the Scatabo and Levitt transfer class, like, they were projected to be the last in the Big 12 and ended up winning the conference. I know it's different in the SEC and the Big 12. It's two completely different things, but there is a world where I think year in, year out, every 3 years, I think they have a playoff team. If I said that, is that shooting too high? Like, I think every 3 years they're going to have a 9-10 win season. I think that's where I want to believe. That's where I want to live on optimism land. And
sure.
Their schedule this year, if we're talking year one, Youngstown State, Bama at home. They always get that week 2 SEC game at home now. At A&M, home South Alabama, at South Carolina, home LSU, at Oklahoma, home Vanderbilt, bye, at Tennessee, home Florida, at Mizzou, and home Louisville. Unless they're clipping a top dog, which is like Bama right off the bat, and they're winning the games that we're probably perceiving as coin flips, like what's Vandy with Jared Curtis, what's Florida in November. Like, even if you're doing that, like, I don't see a bowl team for. I don't see a bowl team. I like what they're building. I like the transfers he went out and got, like Lance Hurd, Tabashola from Ohio State, and Colton Price along the offensive line. I really think he went in there and said, I need a base floor of good offensive line play to figure this out, and we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, year one, I'm kind of like, let's see,
Yes. Yeah. Well, and first thing first, I don't think we prefaced this at the start of the show. This is like we're talking about like high expectations, like what we want these teams to be, like at their best case scenario. I probably should have prefaced that way earlier on, right? But the other thing is you mentioned a team within that schedule that I think could be like a fair comparison, right? Like if Stein can get this Kentucky team to where Drinkowitz got Missouri and has Missouri, like is that bar? Is that what we're shooting for? Is
Yes,
like let's
absolutely.
be what Missouri and Drinkowitz is.
Yes, I think that's a good yeah, that's a good piece of the SEC. Yeah, are they in that 5 to 9 range any given season, right? Like I think that's what they want to achieve.
Yeah,
Like we're not going to touch the Texas budget. We're not going to touch the Georgia development plan. We're not going to touch like the Alabama budget slash whoever they could hire for quarter or like hire for coach if the DeBoer experiment doesn't work.
yeah,
Oklahoma, A&M, Ole Miss, like LSU, like all these teams, they're kind of punching above their weight limit, but can they get to a consistent part? Like I think Mizzou is a great like kind of place you want to live in. Let's go and move on to Auburn with
this is
Alex
where I thought you
Golesh
were
coming
going.
over from USF. He brings over his quarterback in Byron Brown, and I think he brought some receivers as well, and he's bringing his offense. They are an up tempo, similar to that Heupel offense he coached at Tennessee under Heupel. And so again, that's what they're going to bring. They're going to bring that real like let's run zone blocking scheme and let's throw it deep, deep outside the numbers. Like that's what we're going to do. And so Auburn is interesting because Auburn has really fallen into a place where again, they're definitively outside of that, like we just mentioned, that 5 to 9. They're kind of definitively outside of that after being a power with Malzahn there for quite a few years. Um,
Yes.
I'm going to start with you. What are your baseline expectations for
I
what
mean,
this could be?
baseline expectations, like for what we hope year one to be. Again, and this is going to be like a
Yeah.
mark that I often find myself saying is like 500. Can we go 500 or better for this first year? But in terms of like the program, I mean, you touched on that name that I wanted to talk about. Like, can we be what Gus Malzone was in like those middle years? Because in those middle years, he was winning 8, 9, 10, 11 wins. Again, not that I think that we can. And again, this is best case scenario, but like, can we do what Gus Malzone did in his like middle tenure with Auburn? And if like we can do that, then we're going to be ecstatic. We are going to be over the moon with this hiring. Like that is really what we're shooting for. And that is what we want. So it'll be interesting. It's really fun seeing Byron Brown like in the Auburn uniform. By no means am I saying he is Cam Newton. Don't get that crossed. But like
The
there are shades
aesthetic.
there. Yeah, the aesthetic is there. The shades are there. So it's going to be really fun to see this Florida quarterback who kind of looks a little bit like Cam Newton come and play for Auburn. And it just, I thought that was a fun shout that might be worth touching on for this year. But again, for this year, and I'm sure you're going to go over the schedule, 500-ish is what we're hoping for. Can we just like not be as bad as what we were last year? And then like over the course of this, the 10-year, like, can we continue to make the Iron Bowl interesting? Can we
Hmm.
upset Auburn once every four, or can we upset Alabama like once every 3 or 4 years, and really like make them a little scared to come here and play and make a War Eagle really mean something again in Auburn? But
No, I'm with you on the week one or the year one.
mhm.
I struggle with the expectations I have for them because again, this is similar to the like Malzahn when he had them humming was like national championship good, and again like the Cam season is kind of this outlier, but it's not. Like you won the national championship, but at the same time, it's like how many Cam Newtons come around in a college football lifetime? It's like once every
Yes,
5 years, right? Like so
yeah,
it's really hard to just put that on him, but
of course,
I'm if I said similar to what I said for Florida, I think this team being in that the playoff hunt every 2 to 3 years, like I feel like that is where this program should be if they're willing to spend. I know that's been an
Mm-hmm.
issue in the past, specifically this most recent year, was spending to keep talent, but overall, like I think the highs of highs for Auburn are sustained. Like they're shown, they're on the palette, and I think that's where they should be shooting, right? And so
Yeah.
that's where
Well,
it gets interesting with a team like this.
and again, that's why I want to refer back to like those middle years. Again, I by no means am I saying go and win a national championship. Like again,
Yes.
Gus Malzahn in his first year went 12-2, and like it, obviously, but like, can we do like what you did in between 2015 to 2019 ish when you won 8 games, 7 games, 8 games, 8, 9, 10, like a season like that? Can we do something like that? And that's what I refer to when I say like those middle years of Gus Malzahn when he was there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right, and then we get into the last one of the SEC. Arkansas hires Ryan Silverfield over from Memphis, correct? Yeah, and
yes.
they, I don't want to speed on through Arkansas, but it's like this team is
It's
one
tough.
of the teams that has chosen we're going to be good at basketball, and that's it, and so that's fine, but it really feels like we're wasting a spot in the SEC, and overall, like this was one of the hirings that I feel like everybody felt uninspired by. Like Memphis is the most loaded G5 team when you talk about spending power. They never won the American. Like he never made the American title back-to-back seasons. It was only 2 seasons, but never made the college football playoff, the 12-team playoff, where I think there were definite expectations and hopeful to do that, and they weren't really close. Like I remember a few years ago when they got ran off the field late in the year against Navy. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those hires that I don't have much. Like if the best case scenario works out, like we're sniffing a bowl season. I just being blunt, like I think that's what it is. And this season, I don't think it's gonna be anywhere close. I think they have once like I like KJ Jackson as like I think he's gonna be a fun college quarterback, but not so much in the
Yeah.
sense of I think he's going to develop into something in the conference.
Yeah. No, it's difficult because like what I wrote for this, like for him in Arkansas, is like Silverfield was an above average head coach at Memphis who like put together a couple good seasons, right? His 23-24 and his 20 or his 22-23 and then his 23-24 seasons were both very good. That was 10-3 and 11-2. But other than those 2 seasons, again, he went like 8-3, 7-6, 8-4. So he's an above average head coach who could occasionally put together a couple good years. And if like that's what you get out of him in the SEC, like you're ecstatic. But I don't even think that's what the expectation is. Like I don't like. Can you go into this and say like we want you to win 8 games? Like I feel like we might even be shooting like too high for Arkansas. And like I'm sorry, Razorback fans, but as Matt said, like you guys are just a basketball school at this point, and this is kind of just what we're gonna do. Like everyone's worried about basketball and what we can do, and that's where all of our money is gonna go. And like, can we again occasionally put together a 9-win season? Heck, maybe even a 10-win season. Like that would be fantastic. But like, can we go 7-6? Can we go 6-7? And like I hate to be like that low on them, but that just kind of like just feels where Arkansas is at. Like and maybe that's good for Silverfield. Like you're just gonna go to a program that doesn't have a whole lot of expectations, and you may just be able to kind of just ride it out and just live have a comfy a tenure at Arkansas where you go like 600, maybe 650, and no one's going to think about it. And maybe that's just what it's going to have to be for him.
Yeah, I have a hard time projecting much at Arkansas. I'm happy for him because I think you get that payday being in this conference, and there's a world where you swing and get the right portal class, but it just doesn't seem like this is the program that has really shown us that they want to commit in the NIL world. And maybe if Silverfield is awesome, right? Maybe they will. Who knows? But right now, I think this is like best case scenario is consistent bowl team. Like schedule your 3 non-con games and try and win 3 SEC games every year. Like I think that's the best case scenario. And right off the bat, like this is the worst team in the conference. So I have no expectations for them. If anything, this is a year zero. So let's move on. That was our only conference with 5 teams to talk about. Let's move on to the Big Ten. Staying with the big hitters. Going over to the Big Ten, let's start. We have 2 big ones, and then we kind of have like a middle, and then a last one I want to talk about. Let's start with Michigan. Let's start with Kyle Whittingham. Whittingham.
Start with the Michigan.
It's trying something different. They're going with the proven old school head coach, and Kyle Whittingham is heading over from Utah. Again, we're going to talk about Utah. Like Kyle Whittingham's still coaching, so Utah willingly said we want to hire someone who's not Kyle Whittingham. So that's what's interesting. I think it's more about Morgan Scalley than it is Kyle Whittingham. But Michigan is an interesting team because they did something pretty important. They re-recruited Bryce Underwood. So that is what makes this short term very interesting, because like we could talk about all the external things, like the athletic director is going to play out on the string, like he's going to he's going to manage until the end of the year, whatever that means. They want to do respect by him, I guess. I understand.
Sure.
He won 2 national titles. He can do whatever he wants, apparently. But Whittingham being able to come over, and he's bringing the same mentality. Like this is Utah football. Like the Big Ten is suited for the way he wants to win, be physical, play good defense. He's bringing over his Utah All-Stars. He brings in Jay Hill, and he brought in the offensive coordinator. I'm blanking on the offensive coordinator's name, the Utah offensive coordinator from last year. But you think about like short term, you think
Jason
this is
Beck.
kind of like Jason Beck. Let's feel this out. But like when you re-recruit Underwood, I think there is expectation for like this team.
There has to be.
And you go. This is
well. Yeah. No. Well, in like the whole hiring process, and I don't want to get into it because like we absolutely could, and we could do a whole episode on Michigan.
They had to fire Sharon Moore late as well. That was another part. So it wasn't. That was also awkward.
Yeah. Like we could do a whole like 30-45 minute like episode or mini episode on like everything that transpired at Michigan over the last year, because it was very, very ugly. So I truly think like majority of like went into the Kyle Whittingham process was like, can we just get like an adult, no nonsense guy in the building? Because we had a dude who won, and don't get me wrong, it was amazing and it was really, really fun, but he also even had a lot of stuff that followed him in his time at Michigan. So much of it, like, yes, he's a winner, and we will get into that in a second, and he has done very well when he was at Utah. But again, so much of it was just like, can we just get a guy that's an adult and can just like kind of lay low in terms of what you're going to do in the media? And that's how we hire this Utah head coach. And we get here. But I think the hope right now is like, can this Michigan team, I'll go long-term and then we'll then we'll kind of narrow in and go micro on this season afterwards. But like in terms of long term, which like what does long term look like with a coach that has as many years under his belt as Kyle does? It's a conversation for a different day. But like, can we do what you did in the Pac-12 in the Big Ten, where you're winning 10, 11, 12 games a season, and you might have like a bad year thrown in there where you go like 8-5 or 7-6 or something like that. But like consistently, can we go 10, 11 wins?
Yes.
And then of course, every 2 or 3 years, we really want to make a push to win the national championship. But our eyes are going to be set on, in a 5-year span, can we make the playoffs in 4 of them? Can we make the playoffs in 3 of them? And just like achieve double digits more years than not. It's kind of what it is. For this year, it is it is very, very difficult. Because again, you have to have some sort of expectation on what Michigan is going to do. Because again, you had to re-recruit Bryce. If he would have asked me, he was going to go to LSU. So I was very ecstatic. And I hate to set the bar at 9-4. You went 9-4 last year, and like I hate to ask you to do more than that in your first year at a program. But it kind of feels like you have to. Like, can we get to double digits? And like that is kind of what I'm hoping for. Can we get to double digits? Can we have our hat in the ring down the final 2-3 games of the season to play in the Big Ten championship game? And can we sneak in as the 10th seed? Could we sneak in? Like, that's lofty. And I hate that it's that lofty for a head coach that is in his first year, but like that's what it has to be. Like, can we achieve double digits from year one? Because if not, things could turn very, very sideways with this quarterback specifically that you went out and had to re-recruit, that you already have so much money, invested into with NIL. But that's kind of where I am at a micro and macro level for Michigan, and what the expectation is for him. Again, it'll be interesting just because in terms of coaching years, he's getting up there. So is it just going to be like we hired you and then Jason Beck is going to take over in 5 years?
Yeah.
Lord knows, but that's future thinking. We don't have to talk too much about that. So
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like Harbaugh right away had them humming. Like
yes,
he was a 10-win coach, including the postseason berth, and he was playing that game against Ohio State within one possession in overtime in year 2 for a shot
yes.
at the 14 playoff. Right, like that is the ultimate, like the JT Barrett game. Like, and he made 2 New Year's Six bowls in the first 4 years. The New Year's Six bowls are exclusively playoff now. So
Yes.
if we're setting that standard for Whittingham, I think that's a valid standard. I think if
Has to
your
be.
tenure is 5 years, I want 2 or 3 playoff berths. And
Absolutely.
going to the schedule, this schedule sucks, dude. Like this,
I know.
again, there are teams. This is the issue with these big conferences is some teams don't have to play Ohio State, Oregon, or Indiana at all. Michigan plays all 3, and 2 of them are on the road in November. So
and you
that's
play
no
Oklahoma.
fun. And you played Oklahoma, yep. And so that's another piece of this where I think this schedule does suck year one. And again, like I don't want to think about the future. Like I don't want to think about like, oh man, and what's going to happen if they win 8 games? Like and Bryce feels like he is being wasted. Like who knows? But for just getting off the Sharon Moore stink, like I think Whittingham is the right place to land.
Yes.
Like I think it's the right on base hire to get, especially if you kind of debriefed him that the AD wouldn't be here in 6 months. I hope that was debriefed with him.
In all of my high expectations to say, like I do want you to win double digits this year. Like as a fan, that is what I hope. That is what I want. That being said, like if you go 9-4 like you just did this past season, if you go 8-5 even, which I really don't want that, like I wouldn't necessarily blame you because of, like, again, as you said, the stink that was over this program because of everything that happened with Sharon Moore, and like that that was awful, and it will just take time as a program to heal from that, and kind of shift out of whatever that era was. And then I hate to say it because it you ended in a national championship, but like even shifting away from how the gym tenure ended because of everything that happened with that. So I give you a little bit of leeway in year one, but like that is all you get. I do have my high expectations for double digits. I will give you leeway if you don't reach it in year one, but then after that, like, oh, buddy, you better hit the ground running, or the fans in Ann Arbor will not be happy, myself included.
I'm with you. Speaking of high expectations, let's go to State College. This team and Pat Kraft fell ass backwards into Matt Campbell after a just hilarious head coaching search.
Yes.
It felt like Matt Rule, and in the end, it was going to be Kalani Sitake, and in the end, it's Matt Campbell. However, we get here. I remember when we talked about James Franklin being hired. I know I said the word, like I know I said the name Matt Campbell. So for them to end up here, I think it's a fine place to land. And you think about similar to what I just mentioned with Utah, like it's kind of bringing some of the Iowa State All Stars. You think about Rocco Becht, Ben Brummer, and I believe Caleb Bacon is there, the linebacker as well. So again, you get into what the expectations for this is, and again, like the Franklin tenure ends the way it does, and we still disagree on that. Like we still disagree on how they get there. Is it
How we get there? Yeah.
Is it because of the big games, or is it because he finally just started losing to Northwestern, right? But this is one of the teams that you want to just talk about year one and the schedule. I'm gonna go through it week by week, and
sure.
This is where
because
it's like
we disagree. Like this is I think more than any of like the other hirings in this cycle. Like this is the one hiring that like me and you, ironically enough, don't see like eye to eye on completely. So
yeah, so they get, again, this is also a bonus. Like it's a 9-game schedule, so it's nice to have 5 home to 4 away. So they start out. Thank you, James Franklin. Marshall at Temple, home Buffalo. Thank you. One final, that cakewalk non-con that he always set up there at the end. Then it's home Wisconsin. Friday night against Northwestern, which I think they're trying to make the opening of the stadium. Like that's going to be the opening night of their new stadium. Home USC. There's a world you go into the home USC game 5-0, and then you get on the road Michigan, by home Purdue, at Washington, that's a battle, home Minnesota, home Rutgers, at Maryland. This team should win 10 games. Like that was my immediate takeaway when I got into this, and I'm like, oh man, I'm doing it already. Like and that is the funny part of this that you think about.
And that's my point though, right? Like I this hiring to me, and again, this is where we don't see eye to eye on, is like and you tried. I will give you that. Well, maybe not with Matt Rule, but you tried maybe swinging for the fences, and it didn't work. But this just feels like James Franklin all over again. And like I hate to say that because Matt Campbell did have some success, obviously in the Pac-12 or in the Big 12, where he ended up winning some games. Did he win the conference at one point? I feel like
he played
did.
for the conference multiple times, never won
Played
it.
for the conference, never won it. But there you go. Like, is that not just the most James Franklin thing in the entire world? And then it just goes back, like, even if you look, and obviously it's more than just this, but like, even if you look at his record, like, he was exactly 500 in bowl games. He was just over 500 in his entire tenure at Iowa State. Like, this feels so much like we're just doing James Franklin all over again, and it's just like we're running the same thing back. You even just said it with the schedule, right? Like, it feels like the same thing over and over and over again, and hopefully it's not, because there is a world in which, like, you do succeed, where you do jump up in terms of like program prestige, and you do have more resources, and you can, you take this talent developer and you plug him into a university and a program that does have more money and more opportunity, which could then hopefully raise his floor from what he was at Iowa State. So again, by no means am I saying that like it can't be possible, but you just look at what he accomplished at Iowa State, and like they just feel like they were the Penn State of the Big 12. And like we just hired that guy and just slid him right into James Franklin's spot. And that's why I'm just like a little disappointed in what this hiring was. Again, the expectation for them has to be like, you have to win your big games. You have to win your top 5 opponents, because that is the whole reason, in my opinion, that you fired James Franklin in the first place. Maybe that's obviously not what your expectation year one is going to be, but long term, you have to win those games, because you obviously weren't ever able to do that with James Franklin. So it has to be like playoffs. Can we get there? Or if not, like I said, you're just James Franklin. So
okay. You're doing the James Franklin derogatory. I'm going to do the James Franklin positive. The guy won 70% of his Penn State games. And if we were in an era of the 12-team playoff for a long enough period, he probably would have made it 5 out of 12 times. And so that's where I think this era of college football benefits the Matt Campbell era to the James Franklin, where it felt like the James Franklin era always was going to demand, can you crack into that top 2 at least? And the one time they did, they were still leapfrogged by Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. Like, the one time they won the Big Ten against Wisconsin, like, Ohio State still leapfrogged them and then, like, got bludgeoned by Clemson, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's where I think with Penn State, and I'll say this, I am hesitant on the Matt Campbell tenure just a touch, because I think for him, like, Matt Campbell never runs away from the grind. Like, the recruiting class is not what it's looked to be this early, like the 27 class, where I was hoping that this would have been, let's set the standard and let's recruit the coast, like like James Franklin was so good at doing. And we can develop the talent, and more so, he's going to try and find the cracks and find the players that slip through the cracks, and those are going to be the guys I develop. But that's where I think my optimism comes from, is that if he consistently can recruit at a James Franklin level, which is hard to do, I don't want that to be, just like, just do it. But if he can do that, I appreciate what he does from a player developing standpoint compared to a Franklin. And so that's where I think I get really jazzed up about what this could be long term, and the era that we're in, where 10 wins gets you in the Big Ten. Like that, like, and especially in an era where 2 years from now we're gonna have 16, or like if the Big Ten gets their way, they're gonna have 24. Like it's they're always going to be a team that's just in the mix, and I think making, like, again, it's really hard to put, like, I think they need to win the national championship in the next decade, because it's just so hard to do. But this fan base is starved for it. Like, they are, like, they I don't think they're gonna pass anybody in the Big Ten right now. Like, best we can do is 4th right now, man. But I think there is a world they could crack into that tier 1. That's what I'll say. I'll say in the next 3 years, can you crack into the tier 1 of the conference again? And so that's
And I will give you this. I am looking at their record. So James Franklin, 2014 to 2025. So what 11 years,
Yeah.
something along that line. If you take the 12-team playoff and you expand that over the course of James Franklin's coaching career, the 11 wins, Penn State would have made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So roughly half of his career at Penn State, he would have made the playoffs, which that is a good point that you brought up that I did not think about. Like that definitely offers some security for like a head coach to say like, hey, I make the playoffs 50% of my time coaching here. Like if you're a fan base, you have to be at least happy with that. Obviously, it depends on like how well you do when you make it. If you make it and you lose every year, well, then again, then you are just James Franklin. But that is something like you could hang your hat on. So that is a point I didn't think about. So yeah, that makes it a more stomachable for me.
Yeah. Let's move on to UCLA. I think this is one of the more very intriguing hires in Bob Chesney from James Madison. Obviously, well, he's got to become Kurt Cignetti. I mean, they're coming from the same place, right? And I'm so hesitant on how to talk about this because Chesney has a very similar background to Cignetti. He's just won everywhere he's gone. Like he won at the D2 level. He wins at Holy Cross. He now wins at JMU, and he's making the playoff. And hey, they didn't get run off the field against Oregon. Whatever, however Oregon felt about the game, they didn't get run off the field. And UCLA, and the thing is like, I know this is kind of goofy. Doesn't Chesney like scream LA? Do you know how old he is?
Oh, geez. See, I feel bad like guessing this. 40, 35, 35. Oh my goodness.
That's what I was hoping you would say. I was hoping you went low to prop him up. He feels like an LA guy. He looks the part, right? He looks like a movie star. And I'm really excited because this is one of the programs in the conference that I feel like if you can get the things right, there's something here. There's just something like in a booster level that's kicking if you can prove to me something.
UCLA, absolutely, yeah.
And I'm this is where I'm struggling with putting like a ceiling on it. Yes. Where do you like year one? I'm kind of like just make a bowl, right? Even if we have Nico and Wayne Knight's coming over, I'm not going to put too lofty of an expectation right away.
Yes.
But like, I think he's a good enough coach to be like a playoff guy every 4 years, right? Like I think there are these, if you get the schedule right in the Big Ten, which again we have no idea how long these conferences are going to be, like 10 wins should be on the table every few years. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, and again, it is very tough to like not do the Cignetti thing, right? Like you're this JMU coach who has won everywhere, and he actually did better at his time at JMU than what Sig did. And then you go to like this lower level, Big Ten school. Like, can we turn it around? So it is very difficult to not do, the Sig thing. But obviously, it's very important to not do that. You go into this and you set that expectation. You're just going to be bound to fail. Where I'm like a little bit lower in terms of like what I would want. It would be awesome if you did make the playoffs every like 1 in 4 years. But like if you're a UCLA fan, and you like want to say like, yes, Bob Chesney had a good coaching career here, like just be PJ Fleck, just be PJ Fleck, be Minnesota, and just be like a good, good middle of the Big Ten team that every so often can kind of jump up to like the top of that next level of the Big Ten where you're like pushing a little bit and like you might be like a fun team for us to talk about and be like, oh, like can't sleep on UCLA. They might win. And like, yes, again, it would be awesome if you could make the playoffs once every 4 years. But I think as long as you're like PJ Fleck and you're Minnesota, like I think you're going to be just fine. And I think UCLA fans would be ecstatic if that is how it ends up for them.
So, what I struggle with, the biggest part of their ceiling is geographically. Like, I think that, again,
you're traveling everywhere basically. I mean,
Oregon,
outside of
Oregon and USC, and even USC hasn't adjusted fully. Like, those teams can kind of adjust to this travel because we have so many better players than Rutgers and Maryland and all these
yeah.
programs on the East Coast that we could just walk in and it's 28-7 in the third quarter no matter what. But UCLA, like, it's kind of a grind, right? It's just going to be a grind. I was interested in their recruiting rankings because I know he's been really hitting it hard. Like, they're 19th right now in 2027. So I think by, like, if you had to guess, I feel like over under, I feel like that's better than what I think most people would expect on the
Yeah.
outside looking in. And so it's weird to put a ceiling on Chesney because it's still so new and
Mhm.
it's so relatable to Signetti. So it's like we have these two things pushing us in this opposite direction where we should be so blindly optimistic that this guy is going to figure it out, where in reality it's like what was what I think a few years ago, like when Matt Rule is hired at Nebraska, it's kind of what I think here. And I know Nebraska's a blue blood compared to UCLA
Yeah.
in that sense, but I think like that's the same feeling I get. Like, can we make the 12-team playoff or win 10 games in our third year? Can we set a floor for year one, year two? Let's get the right guy at quarterback for year three, and let's jetpack. Like, let's really take a step.
I
Who knows?
Yeah, and I hate to like cut back to the PJ Fleck point, but like that's what he did. I mean,
Yeah,
PJ Fleck in year three,
yeah,
he won 11 games, won 11-2. Um, so like and that's why I feel like again, just be Minnesota, PJ Fleck, win 9 games, 8 games, and then have your occasional like 11-win season if everything goes right. But again, I feel like being in LA and having the boosters that you probably do compared to Minnesota, like I wouldn't be like I don't knock anyone for wanting to have a higher ceiling than Minnesota, and not that Minnesota again by any means is a bad program, but like I wouldn't knock if you wanted to have a little bit of a higher ceiling, but like I don't think that's a too off of a comparison.
yeah. The last one in the Big Ten, Michigan State hiring Pat Fitzgerald, formerly of Northwestern.
Off
Um,
the streets from
the
Chicago,
ending
Chicago high school.
the ending of the Northwestern tenure was pretty awkward, with the scandals and all that, and he comes out on the other side of it. Seems like I don't like hero is the wrong word, but like vindicated. Like he felt like it felt like the firing was a little premature, but was it? Like they weren't winning football games, right? So
Yeah.
that's the part of this that I'm interested from the Michigan State perspective because this just feels like one simple thing of like, oh, we hired a West Coast guy and we got it wrong with Jonathan Smith. Let's hire the Midwest guy again. Like let's do that. Oh he's in the backyard of Chicago. Like maybe we could get an inside track on some Chicago recruits like over the next 4 seasons. But like Michigan State, if we're shooting for like what the ceiling is going to be, I mean, obviously it's the same way we just talked about UCLA. Like if we're
Yes.
talking about best case scenario, it should be the same thing because they've had more football success in the last decade. I
Yes.
don't think that's gonna happen. I am so
No.
like I'm so like uh on this hire because it doesn't feel like anything's different from what I've heard and what I've read about with them. And so I have my many doubts on the Pat Fitzgerald Michigan State tenure.
Yes. Yeah. And I hate to like make it this simple, but like simply, can you just be better than Jonathan Smith? And like, can we make a bowl game? Can we win 6 games? Can we hit that 500 mark? And like, I hate
What was
to like
D'Antonio
diminish.
for a little bit? I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah, well, and he had like some very, very good years there. Like he had some very, very fun years. Like I remember watching, Ken Walker when he played when he exploded onto the scene. That was oh my god, that team was it was a fun team. But like I feel like saying you have to be Mark D'Antoni is maybe even like too high of an expectation to set because he put together like numerous like 5 6. I mean, you have to tell me if
That's
I'm
what
wrong,
I'm
but
looking
like
at
5
here.
or 6.
13, 14, 15. They played a New Year's Six bowls and went 2-1. They won the Rose Bowl, won the Cotton Bowl, and then lost the Cotton Bowl in 2015. So like, thank you, Connor Cook.
Exactly right. So I feel like saying like be Mark D'Antoni, like that's just
Feels too
that's
high,
yeah, that feels a little bit too high. But like, can we be better than Jonathan Smith? He didn't make a bowl game in his 2 years there?
No.
Like, so can we make a bowl game? And like that is what our ground floor is. And I hate uttering his name, but like, can we make a bowl game and then have like a what was like 2020 or 2021 when Ken Walker was there and they won double digit games? Can we have like a once in every 5 season where we can like really pop off? But other than that, like let's get the bowl and then have like one good occasional season. And if we can be that, like I think at this point you are just happy. And like I hate to keep harping back to this because we did it with Arkansas. And we did it with Kentucky, but like this just again feels like another school that is going to be far more focused on what you're getting in basketball than what you will be getting in football. So just don't be bad, is what the floor is, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, continue to have nice non-con schedules. Continue to win 3 to 4. I'm with you on that. I think if set the ground floor and get things right every few years, I think you can have a decade-long tenure if you desire. That's all for the Big Ten.
Really quickly, I hopped on their sports reference page, Michigan State. It is really funny because when you look at the first year of Jonathan Smith and then the last 2 years of Mel Tucker, obviously I don't want to get into the Mel Tucker of it all and everything that happened, but like you look at their records, but then you go all the way over to the notes on Sports Reference, and it says like
they're relegated.
Yeah, record adjusted by the NCAA to 0-7, and it's just like, yeah, it checks out. But it was funny to see that. I thought it was worth just getting a fun chuckle. Obviously,
they can't take away 2021 from us, Ben. They can't take it away.